Uh, we'll get started. Welcome to the November 18, 2020 regular meeting of the Lake Bluff Joint Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. If we could have a call to order and roll call, please, Mr. Cole.
Certainly. Member Burns.
Here.
Member Danley. Member Danley, I believe you are muted.
You're muted.
Sorry. Here. I'm here.
Okay.
Member Miller.
Here.
Member Ryder.
Here.
Member Russell.
Here.
And Chair Peters.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we get started with agenda item number 2, let's hear directly from Mr. Jim Murray, if we could.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as some of you know, over the course of the last 9 months, I have relocated from a domicile point of view to Washington State. Kate and I are still living in Lake Bluff, but from a legal perspective, I no longer reside there. And as such, in working with Ben and Drew, we've determined that I'm no longer eligible to be a member of the PCZBA. And so with regret, I had to submit my resignation this afternoon, but was pleased to be given the opportunity just to speak tonight and just thank each and every one of you for serving alongside of you for the last 2 years. It's been an honor to be part of this body and have really enjoyed and appreciated all the energy and the insights and the enthusiasm for Lake Bluff that everybody brings to the table. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry to leave under these circumstances, but look forward to seeing all of you around the village in the near future.
Good luck, and sorry to see you go. Bye.
All right.
Yeah.
Enjoy Washington, but yeah, look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, no, I'll be back in 2 days. So it's a legal issue, but anyhow, it's great to see you all, and wish you all the best.
No, thanks so much, Jim, for your tremendous contributions. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the board for the past couple of years, and you've been an exemplary member. So it's going to be it's a huge loss from our perspective.
Well, thank you for that, and I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
And you, Jim, too.
You also, Jim. Okay.
Bummer.
Yeah, tremendous loss, but I'm very happy for Jim and his wife and his family. But it creates a definite significant void on our committee, so to speak.
And I'm very sorry to do this, but I was just switching from my unreliable internet to a more reliable internet. Did he say that they were moving? I missed that.
I think.
No, they're not. Okay. Not moving. Okay, thanks. I'll catch up later.
I think it's more of a technical domicile change, Susan, and I think.
Oh, I see.
Unfortunately, the domicile is not Lake Bluff any longer.
That's correct.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so from a legal perspective, you can have homes in different locations, and it's about where you reside. And
Yeah.
Based on intent, and residence is also based, and they look at several factors to determine residency. And so after consultation, it was determined that as of now, he does not technically reside in the village from a perspective of being able to serve on a body within the village government. So.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item number 2, non-agenda items and visitors, public comment time. Mr. Cole, is there anybody out there waiting to speak to the committee?
We do have an audience tonight, but no one, at least yet, has indicated they'd like to speak to us. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you'd like to make a comment, if you're on the phone, you can dial *9, again, star and the number 9. And if we're still seeing no one, Mr. Chairman, so I think we are good to proceed.
All right, let's proceed to agenda item number 3, consideration of the October 21, 2020 PCZBA regular meeting minutes. Any proposed revisions?
Just one, go ahead, George. Just one note, Member Murray did join the meeting immediately after the roll call was taken. So I think normally you note that when someone arrives late.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Member Russell. Any other proposed changes?
Yeah, so, sorry, on page 2, fifth paragraph, Member Burns says that since subterranean garages will be impacted by bulk, I think it should be will impact bulk instead of will be impacted by bulk. And then on page 4, the paragraph right in the middle, I don't know, I mean, I didn't go through the video, but I don't know what that first sentence was about. I don't particularly remember saying it, so I think you could probably strike after said, and just go right to the next sentence and say, Member Burns said he does not think subterranean garages require a special use permit. I don't remember saying that the PCZBA wants to develop regulations and special conditions. I don't think we necessarily want, you know, to do that kind of stuff. So again, I didn't go back and look at the video, but I don't recall the importance of that. That was it.
Thank you, Member Burns. Any other comments? Hearing none, is there a motion, please?
Motion to accept the minutes as stated with the adjustments.
Thank you, Member Miller. Vote, please.
Certainly, Member Burns,
Aye.
Member Danley,
Aye.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Ryder,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
and Chair Peters.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 4, public hearing, 926 North Shore Drive, special use permit for dog training business. Mr. Cole, if you could give the panel an overview, please.
Certainly. So this is a very straightforward one to pause up. Currently operates within the village at another property at 926 North Shore Drive. Yes, 968 North Shore Drive now. They are moving to 926 North Shore Drive down the street. That move, again, special use permits in the village are non-transferable. They can't be moved on their own, so this body would need to recommend, the village board would need to approve a new special use permit for them to operate. No complaints about the current operation. From a staff perspective, we would recommend that consistent with your past special use permits for this type of business, that there would be a condition of approval would be that there be no outdoor activities, kennels, runs, etc. I would also mention that historically at building permit time, we do ask that they provide a plan to as to how they would evacuate the animals in the event of a fire. That hasn't been a condition of special use permits in the past, but we would request it here also. Happy to answer any questions, or we can invite the applicant to present.
Yeah, we'll have to swear in the applicant. And,
Yes, sir.
is the applicant or petitioner available?
Yes, we are.
And if you could raise your right hand and state, do you agree to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. If you could state your name for the record and your address, please.
Sure, it's Brenda Belmonte, and it's 815 Jenkinson Avenue in Lake Bluff, Illinois, 60044.
Okay. If you could, Ms. Belmonte, please just give us a brief overview of the relief that you're seeking. As a matter of course, I think your submission with respect to the standards for special use permit will be adopted into the record, so I don't think we have to go step by step through that. But if you wanted to give us a brief overview, that would be great.
Sure. We came before the Planning and Zoning Commission roughly at this time last year to request a special use permit for 968 North Shore Drive, and it's been a wonderful fit. In Lake Bluff, certainly our roots are with Lake Bluff, and we've had more requests for services than we anticipated in a year. So at this time, my partner Stephanie Challand and I are looking at purchasing the building at 926 North Shore Drive and making Two Paws Up Dog Training's home in Lake Bluff. And we would be bringing the business that is currently located in Green Oaks also into this facility. So rather than have two separate spaces, we're looking to combine it all into one with a permanent home in Lake Bluff.
Excellent. And congratulations on the prospective real estate deal.
Thank you.
Commissioners, who would like to start?
I just had a question.
Sure.
It's Jill here. I can't even see myself here, but anyway, I'm here. Two Paws Up, what makes this a better location for you? And do you have any interest in expanding beyond this footprint, or will this be sufficient enough?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We don't feel that we need to expand beyond that footprint, at least not in the near future. We have no desire to expand our services into either the daycare side or the boarding side or grooming. It is simply dog training, and this building allows us to have roughly double the space that we currently have now for our classes, and more than double the space, actually about triple the space that we currently have working out of the veterinary clinic down the street. So our business model is that this particular location should be big enough for us to meet the demand that we have now and continue to grow in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Danley. Mr. Burns.
No particular questions. I think, given the fact that you already reside in the area, and I guess I'm just happy that the business is successful. I mean, we really want to encourage and support successful businesses. So and I think it's not a high impact to the village. So I'm very supportive of it. No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Miller.
I too have no particular concerns about your project, Brenda. I do have a question though. What is Puppy Head Start?
So Puppy Head Start is a service we currently offer in our location on Nagel Court. What we do is we offer a drop-off service for puppies, much like what we are doing for the adult dogs in the 968 North Shore location. So those puppies are there for a short period of time during the day. We work on house training, crate training, the socialization aspect, which is critical for puppies at that early age. We're working on many of the challenging situations puppy owners find difficult to deal with.
How long does it take you to train a dog to go outdoors?
It's really an owner-dependent behavior, so we can kind of jumpstart them with getting them on a schedule, and then it's really up to the owners to maintain that particular schedule, at home. We also work with signaling behavior, so how does the puppy tell you, that they have to go to the bathroom? And so our observation skills are clearly much better than most owners.
Very good. Well, good luck with your move. Sorry we had to make you go through all this again.
It's okay. we're happy we found the place in Lake Bluff, so it's where we wanted to be.
Good, good. Good luck.
Ms. Ryder?
I'm a very satisfied customer, two paws up. Now, my dog is 14 now, and he still won't listen to me, but
I'm not going to support you said that.
Yeah. You did promise me he would calm down, and I will tell you, he has calmed down finally. It did take him 10 or so years, but yeah. Thank you, Brenda. Glad to have you remain in Lake Bluff. Thank you so much.
All right. Mr. Russell?
I have no questions.
With respect to volume of patients or customers, Ms. Belmonte, approximately how many individuals, how many cars per day?
So we're going to have two variations that will be using the parking lot. The Puppy Head Start clients and our day training clients. That's the day training is what we're currently offering at 968 North Shore Drive. Those clients will be drop off and pick up only. So it will be very consistent with something like a yuppie puppy daycare type parking situation where they'll be there dropping off the dog in the car and go. The back part of the parking lot, which we have 18 spaces, I believe, that will be for our classes and for our employees. And our class sizes have always been small, and due to COVID now they're even smaller. So we typically have 45-minute to 1-hour classes with 4 to 5 students at a time. Then there's about a half-hour to an hour break so that we can do the cleaning in between those classes. So it's typically a very rotational parking. We don't typically have 20 or 30 clients all in the parking lot at the same time. It's 6 coming in, 6 going out for the classes.
All right, thank you. I think in the documents that were circulated to us, there was one proposed condition that may be recommended, and that relates to no outdoor activities. Are you familiar with that condition, and are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, we have no desire to have any outdoor kennels or anything that would impact that. Our outdoor activities are simply getting the dogs outside to go to the bathroom quickly and then back in again. We may do some loose leash walking, in our parking lots, but there will be no activities that will impact the surrounding businesses or the area.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
Are you suggesting that they should do something similar?
I believe that was an unintentional transmission, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
in the parlance.
Any further comments from the petitioner?
No, we're just happy to be in Lake Bluff.
All right. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just
press
note,
close.
yes, I would just note for the record, we have no one wishing to speak. Again, those people can make themselves known, or we could continue.
Okay. Yeah, is there anyone in the audience, so to speak, that wishes to address this particular petition? Hearing none? Is there a motion, please? And we're a recommending body in this instance.
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
And that's approval with that limited condition, Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Okay,
And I second that motion.
thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could we have a vote, please?
Certainly, Member Ryder,
Aye.
Member Burns,
Aye.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
Member Danley,
Aye.
Chair Peters.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good luck.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. All right. Agenda item number 5, a workshop with respect to 500 Arden Shore Drive, Arden Shore Road, I should say. If you
Yes.
could give us an overview, Mr. Cole.
Certainly, and I know, I believe probably everyone in our audience is here to speak on this issue tonight, or to listen and probably to comment during public comment. So this, as you'll recall, a very, very, very long time ago in, I believe, February, right before the beginning of our long COVID year, we heard a workshop on this item or on this property, excuse me, for a proposed 12-unit development. Again, that development clustered towards the lake shore, and that would have kept most of the western part of the property, which consists of wetlands and some large specimen trees, et cetera, as open space. Specifically, it would have been used as a driving and practice range for Shore Acres Golf Course, which lies just to the north of this property.
We have a lot of support, probably. Do we make a proposal?
So what you have here in front of you, that proposal, as you can understand, did not ultimately move forward. A new potential purchaser, Liam, has come forward, Mr. Kriebel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And so has proposed to create 2 lots, again, the western 18 acres or so being used as a practice facility for the golf course, and then the eastern about just under 8 acres being used as a single-family residence in an estate. We've given you an overview in the memorandum as far as the relevant policies from the comprehensive plan, how this, the density of this proposed development would line up with the form of development contemplated in the comprehensive plan, and also talking about the variations procedurally that would be needed if this proposal were to move forward to subdivision and to construction. What I would say is this does, just by timing, dovetail into this group's discussion of accessory dwelling units. This proposal contemplates, a single family estate, and then it contemplates 2, they're described as cottages, but essentially full accessory dwelling units, bedrooms, bathrooms, etc., also located on the same site. This workshop is really about 500 Arden Shore. Certainly, we would be interested in the group's guidance, the commission's guidance as to if this moves forward, procedurally, how you'd like to handle that. Certainly, depending on the timing, our ADU rules may be in place by the time this came forward. There may be some combination of more single-purpose relief that would allow this to move forward, whether it's variations, special use permits, et cetera. Again, really, what we're looking for as staff is just if there's support for the development proposal, we certainly can bring you options on how to best approve that. One note I will point out here, though, again, while it's mostly about 500 Arden Shore, this does illustrate one of the points we talked about in that ADU conversation was the idea of, would you want to allow more than one ADU on an estate lot? At the time, in the abstract, the thought was that was undesirable, at least at first. But I would note that this is a proposal that contemplates that. And certainly we can discuss that more after the applicant's presentation and after we go through their materials. So happy to answer any preliminary questions, or we can turn it over.
No, I think we're ready to proceed.
All right.
If you could state your name and
Glenn?
address for the record, please.
We can hear you.
This is Mike Edelman. You hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I'm Mike Edelman. I'm here on behalf of William Crable, better known as Lean. I've never called him William. I've lived in Lake Forest the past 35 years and have been a real estate attorney practicing in the community for most of that time. I've developed a couple of residential subdivisions in Lake Forest on my own account, as well as on behalf of several clients. I've never had the occasion or privilege to work with the village of Lake Bluff, so this is a first time for me. I've previously served 5 years on both the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals in Lake Forest, and then 6 years as an alderman on City Council. So I want to thank all of you for the volunteerism that you do for Lake Bluff, because I know the hours that it takes and the passion you have to have for it for the benefit of the community giving back. As I said, I'm here on behalf of Leam. Leam's under contract to purchase the 26 acres at 500 Arden Shore Road. I understand that this body is well familiar with it. You've seen several different petitions. Hopefully this is the last petition that'll ever have to come before you. We think it's the best one. Our involvement began actually at the beginning of the summer, and I reached out to Glenn to talk about ADUs, and he mentioned that you were having a workshop on it in either June or July. So a bunch of us attended that. We monitored it, found it very interesting. We thought we were going to have a contract on it early summer, and it didn't turn out to come to fruition. Another party had it under contract for 60 days, and that fell through. And as soon as it fell through, Leam pounced on the opportunity to put it under contract once again. And we have a pretty short time frame within which to develop a comfort level. Normally, for myself or a client, I'd want a contract with a time frame that allowed me to satisfy my contingencies, get my subdivision approved, complete my due diligence. We don't have that luxury in this instance because we could not negotiate that with the seller. So that's why we asked Glenn and Drew if we could have this workshop with you, not for any formal action to be taken, but just to get some feedback and direction from all of you as to what you would be amenable to considering, and maybe you can give us some guidelines for the completion of our due diligence. Basically, we want to do a 2-lot subdivision. About 7.7 of the easterly acreage, 7.7 acres of the easterly half of the property would be reserved for one residential lot for Leam to construct a relatively modest residence, a primary residence, and he'd like a couple of ADUs for family. And the other 18.3 acres would be set aside and sold to Shore Acres, so they could do a driving range for their membership. We've been scrambling because we basically have a 45-day window before we have to fish or cut bait on the contract. We've engaged a firm of Mastardi Platt who are doing a phase 1 environmental for us. I was out there with Carl DiTomaso a couple Saturdays ago excavating spoils piles that you might be aware of that are on site to see what might be beneath the topsoil that was covering the surface. And we're just really trying to move this along as quickly as possible so that Leam can make a decision. We need to discuss ADUs, we need to discuss well and septic with you, easement access, setbacks. Having said all that, Leam would like to state what his vision for the property is. Then I'm going to sit back and just listen diligently while Nick Patera from Pesca Associates gets into some of the detail with you. So Leam, unmute your mic and take it away.
Buddy, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
So, Mike, thanks for that introduction, and thanks to all of you for making time for this. As Mike said, I'm Liam Crabiel. Have a wife named Karen. We have 2 kids, and we live in Chicago, in Lincoln Park. And we've been thinking for a while now that we would love to find a place in or around the Lake Bluff community where we could build a residence that could be a place where we could spend time when we're not in the city, such as the weekends, the summer, and holidays and that type of thing. I think I have relatives who have been in Lake Forest for many years, so I'm somewhat familiar with Lake Forest and Lake Bluff, and have been drawn to the area for a long time. I think my wife and I really liked about this property on Arden Shore is that it's a beautiful part of your village, and it's part of the country estate district, I think, as you call it. And what we like about that is the kind of wonderful history of some of the farms. Obviously, Crabtree Farm being the most famous example, but just kind of the kind of country farm aesthetic of the country state district. And I think, for example, I'd reference Crabtree Farm in general, but the William McCormick Blair residence in particular at 982 Sheridan Road, that was designed by David Adler, as being, I would say, our kind of inspiration for the property that we're looking at 500 Arden Shore Road. And I guess what I mean by that is similar to the William McCormick Blair property, is that this is a larger piece of property. This one, even after the subdivision, the eastern parcel that we would hope to keep would be about 7.6 acres of property. So a substantial piece of property and about 400 feet of lake frontage. And on a property that size, my understanding from Mike and Nick is that, we could build, if we want to, a very substantial house. But actually, kind of sticking with that kind of original spirit of the country estate district, what honestly we would much prefer to do aesthetically is, instead of having kind of one big house, have more of that kind of country estate, kind of country aesthetic feel to it, where we'd have a much smaller kind of main house, and then have a couple of small guest cottages, because my wife and I both still have parents who are with us and other relatives, and we think it would just work really well to have a couple of guest cottages where family and guests can stay, but also at the same time afford them their own bit of privacy. And just to be clear, we have no interest in any sort of rental situation with the guest cottages or anything like that. This is just purely for our own personal use. And I guess the other thing I would say is, my understanding is that the village is at least contemplating allowing ADUs in your village. And I was led to believe that that it might be one option is to think of this as a bit of a one size fits all, where you say, look, you can have up to one ADU regardless of the size of the property. And I guess I would just ask this group to think about, for a property of this size where it's over 7.6 acres of land, could there be an accommodation for a second guest cottage, given the size of the property overall, is really what we're thinking about, and that the overall footprint of the structures on the property would be quite small and significantly below the overall kind of allowance for a property on a piece of land of that size. But again, I appreciate your time and your consideration, and again, we would really love to have a home in Lake Bluff for us and our family to use, and hopefully something that really, again, ties into the original kind of aesthetic of the country estate district. So with that, I'll stop talking and I'll turn it over to Nick.
But before Nick chimes in, let me just add, I believe Jack Keller, president of the board of directors of Shore Acres, is standing by, just in case there are any questions that the commissioners may have of him. Is Phil Liederbach standing by, your architect? Do you know, Liam or Nick? Do you know if Phil's on?
No, I don't know.
I don't know if Phil's on, but I think Jack is dialed in.
Okay, and Hal Frank, the attorney for Shore Acres, is also dialed in. Okay, with that, Nick, it's all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Nick Patera is my name, and the opportunity has come forward. We've looked at this property, and I just added up the years when the buildings were there 25 years ago, when it was the school as a prospective development. And through time and coincidence, we've stayed with this property looking at different various plans, and once in a while, lightning does strike. And I think that the opportunity that came up with this to have the collaboration of Shore Acres and Liam and his family come forward with a vision of what could happen on this property is extraordinary. And what we want to do is, I'll take you a little bit of a tour in a minute if Glenn could help me with this, but the idea of having a piece of property that's not comparable to other properties that have consideration for ADU. Some of the more high density properties that are in town don't have a lake in the backyard. They don't have a golf course in the front yard. And we would have a hard time trying to find another 26-acre piece of property from the Indiana line all the way up to Wisconsin line that has this kind of character as a residential single home property with two ADUs. So I think that there's precedent here that we can solicit your thoughts on that distinguish this from other properties that's not going to set up a standard that has other people come knocking on the door in Lake Bluff and saying, hey, you gave it to them, how come not us? So that's my, at least my beginning of thinking about how can we situate something that has the historic precedent that's equivalent to some of the most grand properties that we see up and down the North Shore, specifically Crabtree and some of the other grand estates that we have in Lake Forest. The preservation of open space, the country estate, and the sense of legacy, I think, that exists with this opportunity is something that we're hoping we can come to some commonality with. I can kind of take you through this real briefly, if you don't mind. Glenn, is there a way you can bring up the site plan that we put together?
Most certainly.
Thank you. Some of you may be familiar with this. You can stop and ask if you're not. But basically, the red line that goes around the property does not touch Shore Acres Road. That is the 26-acre piece of property, including a stem that contains the Shore Acres Road. The Arden Shore Road that's there today. That's a remnant of the school in its past. So that stem would continue, and it serves the Booth home in its current condition. The other access point would come in now again through the great cooperation of Shore Acres. We're intending to connect up at the Shore Acres Drive at its elbow, at that eastern north-south elbow where it changes from east-west, and there would be two connections. One would feed the golf cart route to the practice range for the golf course. The other would feed the Crable residence as a single driveway, curving around and coming through the woods. Both of these drives would be going across Shore Acres property, owned property, before they are able to attach to the Crable property or the Arden Shores property. The division line that you see between west, the 18 acres, and east, the 7.6 acres, occurs just behind the golf tee. The operation of the golf practice facility between the two parties has been agreed on that it would only fire in a westerly direction. A tee would have its back toward the residential property, and likely a berm or some other screening to give both parties a sense of privacy and ownership. There's a pretty significant wetland on the 18-acre portion. That's that diagonal stripe that you're seeing. We're doing everything to stay out of the wetland and to preserve the woods in the wetland as an intact natural area as it shows. The two roads that come in, the cart path and the driveway, would have to cross at the narrows of the wetland. As you go into the eastern residential part of the property, the road curves and comes through the woods. It has an opening and vista to the house. This is classic land planning that you would see with some of these grand estates, is a vista of the home, and then it tucks around and goes through some of the existing trees and vegetation and emerges to arrive at the auto court. The primary home and the main cottage is right in the center. It's set back about 40 feet from the top of the bluff, that red dashed line. Glenn, is there a way to, there are two other little enlargements that we could show. Thank you. A little bit easier. And these are just templates. We really don't have the architecture designed yet, but we're trying to give you an idea of what the scale of a main cottage home would be. As a primary home, a two-story house with a detached garage is what's shown. The south structure is kind of tucked away toward the woods, but getting a view of the lake still and up above the bluff. And then the north structure is set up against a wooded edge and behind the bluff. The bluff has kind of a great point of view from that north smaller cottage. That would be, the north cottage would be a one-bedroom, the south cottage would be a two-bedroom. That's the limit of the structures. The idea of creating a grand open space that's called Great Meadow on this plan, again, is part of the drama that we see. The bluff itself has been stabilized and pulled back. That's why you're seeing it kind of curve back. And the present owner spent a considerable time and money and engineering to make sure that the bluff is not a deterrent, but actually quite a handsome finished kind of natural grade that goes down to the lake. That zigzag going down the bluff is actually a graded pathway that allows you to walk gently without having to have stairs or other inclinator type devices to go down. So as an overview, I can also bring up the comment that Mike brought up, which is having to do with setbacks. We've shown the yellow dashed line as being the building setbacks that we propose, and it's similar to what the Kellers to the south would have, or the Covingtons to the north, Covingtons, with a 40-foot side yard setback on the north and the south, a 100-foot setback from the Lake Michigan east edge, and then on the west edge, we've shown the same as a side yard. We really don't have a front yard because we don't have a frontage on a road at this location, except for up at the north panhandle end where I've shown a 100-foot front yard setback that we wouldn't build in anyway because that's approaching the wetland in that area. So just in summary, the two accessory dwelling units, north cottage, south cottage, the primary home, the setbacks are all elements that we would like to get some opinions on. And I think that we're back to Mike, if you have something further to say, or I can answer questions on some of the site plans.
Oh, that was great. That was great. Nick, do you want to, there's a third slide. Did you want to talk at all about the proposed driving range or?
Sure. Thank you. We can look at that in a little closer detail. This is 300 yards of driving range that, like I said, has a from east to west aspect. The bright green kind of L-shaped is the T on the right-hand side of this. That's the east side. The red jaggy line that's going through here and the blue lines, those are the wetlands. And so that you can see that we've been able to accommodate this. And that, frankly, is the reason how we've gotten to balance both parcels so that they're complementary to each other. The golf cart path, you can see a little bit more clearly. One of the comments that came from earlier was making sure we separated those connections at Shore Acres so we don't have a conflict between Liam and his family and golf access for people traversing back and forth to the range from the club. It's about 150-foot separation there. Going across that section, the strip section between Shore Acres Road. Lastly, at the Booth residence, the lower left corner of this, there's a garage that Mr. and Mrs. Booth built that connects to Arden Shore that we would still provide access on Arden Shore Road, and Arden Shore Road could be used still for just incidental golf practice range maintenance if they needed to get a maintenance vehicle back and not use the cart path, but otherwise it would only just be for occasional use. And you know, partly what's not here is any wetland disturbance. The trees that we're showing, some of which are existing trees, would now further be evaluated. There's a lot of, we have a tree inventory and tree survey that was done that's going to be updated to determine the health condition and whether or not there's still some ash trees that are in here and other species that are left over from the school in its past. That's a pretty good overview of the range. Oh, sorry, there's one other thing. At the end of the golf cart path, there may be a structure for maintenance equipment. If they have ball or equipment storage, it would be the equivalent of a garage, not an occupied structure, other than just for materials maintenance and perhaps shelter if it's an inclement day, rain or such. There could be a way to get in and out of the weather, but otherwise it's not intended to be a plumbed or heated type of a facility. Mike, thank you. That was a good call, and I would be happy to go further if there's questions.
Let me also add to that there's an existing structure left from the Arden Shore School days, the pump house, the old pump house. It's deactivated, and it's uncertain whether it could possibly be reactivated and used for irrigation for the driving range. I'm not expert enough to know if the driving range needs irrigation or not, or maybe even to reactivate the existing hydrants that are on the property too. So that's another structure that we're uncertain whether it's going to remain or be removed.
It's almost come down by itself, so it's not too far from being gone.
True. I know that our team has reached out to George Covington to the north and the Keller family to the south. I've known George Covington for 20, 25 years. George might even be on the Zoom monitoring it. I think both of those meetings went pretty well. Liam, you were there, right? Do you care to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, and Jack Keller also, actually Jack Keller, who I think is listening in, organized that meeting. It was Jack, the Covingtons, myself in person, and then I believe Tim Keller was on the phone. So Jack, I don't want to speak for them, but Jack was there as well, and I think it sounds like they were very supportive of what we would like to do, and I think compared to some of the other, especially compared to some of the other development ideas in the past that have been put up for or considered for 500 Arden Shore, they seem to be very supportive of what we were trying to do, as is Shore Acres. But again, I'll let Jack speak for the club.
one other point. Nick, you didn't touch on what we believe will be the approximate square footages of the house and the ADUs, and I know you don't want to be specifically tie yourself into a number, but I know what Liam has in mind is about a fraction of what the floor area ratio statute would provide for it. I think this land could support about 36,000 square feet of buildable floor area. And the house is what, 4,000 to 5,000 square feet, Nick?
We don't really have a specific, this is shown right now as a template, it's a placeholder. And to be honest, the talent of the architect is going to need to come forward, and so I'm not trying to dodge the question, but the scale of what you're looking at right now might fluctuate, but right now the main cottage is about 3,500. The north cottage is somewhere in 800 square feet. The south cottage is just shy of 1,000 square feet, somewhere in that range. The north and south cottages are single stories. The main cottage primary residence would be a 2-story, and there would likely be a garage associated with that. Those are good placeholders, but I don't want to kind of etch that too firmly because the architect really needs to come forward with his vision on behalf of the family.
And I understand. I just wanted to underscore that our floor area utilization is probably going to be in the range of 10 to 15% of that permitted by code. Wouldn't you say that's correct?
Yep, that is true.
Yeah. So the most important thing to me from a legal standpoint is the issue of ADUs. We understand the village is getting very close to legislating ADUs. And if we didn't have any, I think we would be totally conforming to the code, and this would be, I hate to use the term, a slam dunk 2-lot subdivision. But the ADUs are an exception to what's currently permissible. And that's where we really wanted to try and draw some feedback from you, the commissioners here, because that's important to Liam. You know, he and Karen, they've got parents that are not getting any younger, and I don't know if they have caregivers yet, but that's in the foreseeable future. He doesn't plan to ever rent this out or use it as a B&B. It's strictly for his own personal consumption, but it would be important to him to be able to have family come and visit and not have to reside in the primary residence, but stay in the ADU and possibly a caregiver in the smaller one.
Mike, can I add to that? We contemplate just different scenarios to say, how could we work out something that would be supportable by the village? We wanted to be pretty straightforward with this. This is one ownership, and for the 7.5 acre, 6 acre residential piece, we didn't want to start to slice it up and say, oh, okay, this will be one ownership, but it will be on 2 lots. It just didn't seem to be the thing that we wanted to do, to start coming up with more PIN numbers just to get through an ordinance issue. And really we're trying to be very straightforward with this and say it's simply what it is a country estate that has supporting buildings in a primary structure that are compatible with each other and not convoluted kind of gymnastics going on with slicing and dicing into multiple parcels on this property.
Right. And Ben Schuster, I don't know if anyone's brought this up to you, but it was suggested to us in some prior conversations that possibly we could do this with a text amendment to the code.
So a text amendment would be one manner in which this could be done. I would have to look at the plan development provisions for a planned residential development, and maybe some modifications that can be done that way. I think for the purposes tonight for the commission, I think the question is it something that you would look at is beneficial and and something that you would want the village to pursue? And if so, we can talk about, from a policy perspective, different ways to accomplish the goal.
Well, we would just want to pursue the course of least resistance, obviously. So that's, I turn it back to you for guidance along that issue.
I have one more just addition. At the beginning of my presentation, the text amendment seemed to be appealing to us because we were able to distinguish this property as unique, the opportunity to combine two compatible users, preserve open space with Shore Acres and their golf practice facility. Again, says that there aren't too many properties that are going to have these circumstances that could then not set a precedent and open up a Pandora's box with other possible users that might have a 26-acre site with a lake in the backyard and a golf course in the front yard. So I think that there are ways that we could do a text amendment with certain conditions.
Do we have anything else to add? Do we need Frank on here? Or Jack Keller on here?
Yeah, so Mr. Keller, I think, looks like he's wanting to speak to the group, as is Mr. Covington, if you'd like us to start going through the public comment piece of this.
Certainly.
All right. We will, takes a second for people to rejoin so that they can speak. Mr. Keller, you're on with us whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Sorry, getting my Zoom going here. Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for your time. My name is Jack Keller. I'm the president of Shore Acres. I live in Winnetka. Just as a point of clarification, I am no relation to the Keller who is the neighbor to the south of 500 Arden Shore Road. Just wanted to make sure there was no confusion there. Thanks for your time. I know the club has been involved with a number of conversations about this property over the years, and I appreciate the village's and the board members' input that have helped us try to figure out a good solution for this property. I think that, as you know, we've come up to you before with some other potential partners, and I think they've had some very thoughtful, attractive, frankly, plans that could have been great. But this solution is clearly the best one that we've had the opportunity to discuss. And we hope that the village will give it careful consideration. Just a couple of comments about it. First of all, I think our goal for our portion of the property is to move our practice facility over to the area that Nick Patera pointed out, and I think that would be nice. But one of the most important parts of the plan is that we maintain the large natural area, which frankly is sort of the majority of the property that I'm not sure whether it's technically the majority, but a large portion of the property that we would end up purchasing from the Craybills after they close with the seller. And the club is very interested in maintaining a natural and attractive entrance to the club, and we are aware of the high quality wetland that's there. We want to preserve it, and in fact, I think I can say that we're in a good position to not only preserve it, but perhaps to improve it by removing some of the invasive species and dead trees and things like that to the extent we're allowed to, because we have a full-time staff that does that type of work all the time. So I think we're in a unique position to do that. But we really do want to maintain a natural setting, and when we do come to the point where we would be constructing the range, we're well aware that there are well-established rules around trees, around what we can do with the trees. And as Nick mentioned, we're carefully undergoing a updating of the tree survey that's there. We have members that are well versed in the rules, and we'll give careful consideration to what we need to do to make sure that we don't do anything to violate any of the rules, including the tree rules and the wetland rules, et cetera. I think that from the standpoint of the Craybills' vision for their property, the Craybills are a family that is well known to the club, well known to me personally, and I know them to be of extremely high integrity, and also I think they do understand the general aesthetics of Lake Bluff and sort of what you would be looking for. And I think that they're what they would plan to do would be very, very well done and very attractive. And I can say that would be somebody who we would be able to work with very well. We're going to need to give an easement across some of our property for them to access their property, and we will gladly do that and work with them to make sure that we have adequate screening between our property and theirs, et cetera, et cetera. And I would also like to say, lastly, is that we see absolutely no issue, if you're interested in our opinion, we see no issue with them having an additional cottage and or two cottages that are smaller structures. I think they're, when you stand out on that property, you can really get a sense for how large it truly is. And when given the size of home they're discussing, I think, speaking as a neighbor, it will be of no consequence to us. There's plenty of room for us to not be bumping into each other out there. I guess the last thing I would say is when we do one thing I would point out is on the long-term perspective, there was once a school there, and there still is quite a bit of asphalt. No offense to the seller, there's quite a bit of asphalt out there that we would remove and of course turn into green space, grass or grasses or shrubbery or whatever. And so in a way, I think we like to think that that's preserving green space for the area, and we're proud to do that. So I hope that helps. If anyone has any questions for me, please fire away. And I would also be interested in any concerns anybody might have or feedback anybody might have about putting a range. And I know we've discussed it many times in different formats, I guess I'd say. But we're definitely open to any discussion anybody might want to have with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I suppose next we can take, and this is the only person whose name I don't know. If your phone number ends in 0439, you'll be able to talk to us here. I would mention, not sure why, but it looks like you are muted on Zoom, and so you'll have to dial *6 before we can hear you. Again, that's *6.
Hi, this is Tim Keller, the neighbor to the south.
We can hear you, Tim.
Okay. This proposal is obviously much more favorable to George and I, and we've talked many times as these other proposals have come up. One being a couple of months ago, maybe 6 months ago, where it was 12 units clustered very, very close to George and I. And this proposal and this use of the property is obviously much more favorable to the country estate, to the kind of the sense of what's going on in the country estate zoning up there, with the 200,000 square foot minimum, basically 5-acre lots. So what the Crable family is doing here is, is consistent with my lot, with George's lot, and with what's going on up there. So when we talked, it was a week or two ago, with everybody that was on the Bluff, and unfortunately I was out of town and I am out of town now. I guess my concern would be the setbacks, right, of the south cottage. I've been at my residence now for almost 22 years, so we've really enjoyed a lot of privacy back there, seeing as we've had 26 acres vacant for the entire time we've been there. So my family and I have gotten to go out to our pool and do all the things we do and not have a whole lot of noise or anybody around. So we're really used to that. The south cottage, I would be very interested in the setback from the lot line as well as the setback from the bluff for my view to the, what would it be, to the north, right? I mean, I can see from my pool, I can see all the way, and then from my back patio, I can see all the way up to the naval base and the little their entrance there. So this is a very favorable outcome for me. So I'm interested in seeing this go forward, and actually I don't see what you guys see today. I just saw what was sent to me, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. So I think that's a real preliminary plan. I'm not able to see what you guys are seeing today. So as this proceeds, I would be interested in the exact locations of the main house, and especially the south cottage. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the public?
Yeah, I know Mr. George Covington was asking to speak a while ago and is not now. I don't know if that's intentional. There we go. I like to think we make the technology part of this as smooth as we can. George, you're able to speak to us whenever you're ready.
Good evening. I'm not sure. I can't see myself, but I don't really need to see myself. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Well, I've lived in the property to the north of this property for a long time, for about 40 years, and I've seen a variety of plans, some of which have also been presented by Mr. Patera, and the same enthusiasm he presented this evening's plan. However, I will say, regardless of Mr. Patera's enthusiasm for other plans, this is by far the best plan I've seen, and I am really supportive of it. I have some issues, as Tim Keller does, with the setback. There's also a drainage issue along the north boundary of the about to be Craybill property, which I've discussed with Liam, and have sent him some pictures, and I'm sure we'll deal with that. I would also like to make sure that the wetlands, the 16 or so acres of wetlands, are really preserved in an appropriate way. Frankly, and I'm also a member of Shore Acres, and I've been a member of Shore Acres for about as long as I've lived there. But I've also seen Shore Acres do things that I would not consider the the top of ecological maintenance. And this wooded wetland is, as I understand it, an ecologically significant one. And I think there should be some standards with regard to its future maintenance. It should not be maintained like a golf course adjunct. But in any event, I congratulate Liam on, I think it's a great plan. I'm enthusiastically supportive of it, and I'm sure we can work out whatever details we need to work out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Covington. Any other comments from the presenters before we open it up for questioning by the board members?
I've got nothing.
All right. Who'd like to start?
I'll start. This is George Russell. While George is still on the line, George Covington. George, I'm assuming that you're okay with the driveway easement across your property.
Yeah, well, it doesn't cross the property. As far as you're talking about the driveway.
Yes, the county records show you own that little piece to the north.
Well, I do own. I'm not sure exactly where the driveway is in relation to it. My property has a kind of a flange or a panhandle going to the west. I'm assuming, from what I've seen, that driveway avoids that. I think it would be in the interest of Mr. Keller and me to move the driveway a little bit to the west, because I don't think he really wants to see the driveway go past my old ramshackle garage that's there. That would probably not be a suitable entrance to his property, but those are tweaks I think we can work out. Mr. Craybill, I'm sorry.
Okay, and then quickly for Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller, the drawings that were being shown for the South Cottage, which they're commenting would be in the area of 1,000 square feet or something like that, one story, they're currently depicting it graphically anyway at about 80 feet off the back from the top of Bluff and about 80 feet north of the property. It's in the realm of what you would consider to be reasonable.
So it's 80 feet from the top of the bluff and 80 feet from the lot line?
That's correct. It's just a graphic depiction at this point, but I'm just wondering, since you commented on that.
Yes, to me that seems reasonable.
Okay, thank you. For Jack Keller, I guess, the driving range, I'm going to assume that there's absolutely no intention to have any operations in the evening. I'm also wondering, I'm sure even though every one of your members is a car golfer or better, that golf balls do go astray, and wonder what you have in mind for keeping Mr. Booth's property from filling with golf balls over the years.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer that question. First of all, it's a membership who I don't know how many golfers there are on this committee, but not many of us can even hope to hit it 300 yards to the end of the range like Dustin Johnson would. We may have one or two who can, but I'm sure they're used to having limits on how far they can ball. So I think there's plenty of room before Mr. Booth's house for us, and we also plan to leave as many trees as we can in place while still being able to practice hitting shots. I'm sorry, what was the other question? I feel like I missed one of the questions. What was the other question?
Just the nighttime operations.
Yes, no, absolutely no night play. Currently, we close our range at 7 p.m. I think that would be the same, and obviously at certain times of the year, it's not even open that late because it gets dark. We would never, we're not planning to light the range or anything like that. And I would also point out that the range is closed currently from November 1st, I think, to April 1st. So, you know, it's not a heavily, part of the year where it's not used at all. And then even in those times of the year when it is used, it's not going to be heavy traffic, with the exception of when we have an event where it might be a fair amount of use for about 45 minutes, and then there'll be sort of no use for the rest of the day. So, you know, that's kind of how it gets used. But no, we have absolutely no intention to light it or use it at night for hitting balls. I think the only thing that Nick pointed out is we might at some point want to put a small facility to help us have maintenance equipment stored out there. But at this time, that's sort of all we envision that we would have, and that's our vision for the time being.
Okay, and one last question, Mr. Keller. Did I understand you correctly? There's a short access driveway that the booths use to access the north, on the north side of their property. You said there is discussion about leaving a short section of driveway there along the north property line for them to maintain.
It's on the western portion. The Arden Shore Road comes and sort of curves around, takes a right turn around the booth residence, and they get to their garage that way. That was, I believe, the original road into where the school buildings were, and it continues down. You can, you've probably been there. You can drive right down there now, right down to where the parking lots were and still are, frankly. I think we would remove most of that road, but we would probably leave access so that if we needed to get, I'm making this up because I really don't know, but if we need to get a large truck in to remove a dead tree or something, it might be better to bring it in that way than it would be through the new entrance that we're going to create over to the northeast. And so what specifically would happen to that road, I can't comment right now, but there would be some portion of that road in my view, would remain and possibly be attached to Shore Acres Road. Currently, they're still separate, even though they're only separate by about 2 feet, they are separate.
Okay, thank you.
Did that answer that?
Yes, it did. Very well. Next question for our village attorney. Ben, last month or maybe the month before, you admonished all the members of the PCZBA about expressing their opinion whether they were in favor of a proposal until after all public hearing comments had been made. So here we are being asked to give the applicants, if you will, an opinion as to whether or not we would favor this. So if you could give us any guidance on that before we comment, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So